Hello everyone, and welcome back for your 1-3 lesson on midpoint and distance. Our learning target for today, we are going to be able to use the midpoint and distance formulas to solve problems. More specifically, we'll use the midpoint formula to find the midpoint of a segment drawn on a coordinate plane, and the distance formula to find the length of a segment drawn on a coordinate plane. So let's get a couple definitions and formulas in your notes, and then we'll move on to some examples. So we're going to write down a midpoint formula, but let's make sure we understand what a midpoint is. The midpoint of a segment is the point that divides the segment into two congruent segments. That's a pretty big idea in geometry. Anytime that you're given a midpoint, that means there are two congruent segments created. And oftentimes we find the two congruent segments, we can set their lengths equal to each other and do lots of fun stuff like that. The midpoint formula, let's write that out. Midpoint formula is an ordered pair. What we do is we take the x value from our first ordered pair plus the x value from our second ordered pair, and these are the ordered pairs from the endpoints of a segment. So these would be in a coordinate plane that have x and y values. We're going to divide that by 2. That's going to give us the x value of our midpoint, and then we need the y value of the midpoint. So we are basically finding the middle point of a segment. We're going to take the y value from our first endpoint plus the y value from our second endpoint and divide that by 2. So there's our midpoint formula. Moving on to our distance formula. When we're talking about distance, we are finding the distance between 2 points. So we will look at those endpoints again and use those x and y values to find the distance. So that formula is the distance is equal to the square root of a bunch of stuff. So it's going to be in parentheses x2 minus x1, and we square that, plus y2 minus y1, and we square that. It's the square root of all of that right there. The x1, x2, let me show you, that would come from an ordered pair, x1, y1, and x2, y2. Those would be endpoints of a segment on a coordinate plane.